Welcome to the Deep Dive Podcast. I'm your host, Dylan. I'm here today with Haley, James, and John, and today we're going to be talking about types of biases. For my biases, I ended up doing two. I did the false consensus effect. Basically, what the false consensus effect is, you overestimate how much people agree with you. And this matters for a few reasons. First being, it affects people's decisions making. Say, you have the guys over. You're like, oh, I want to order a pizza. I think everyone wants a pizza. Little do you know, someone's gluten-free in the back and can't have a pizza. Now you're the bad guy. It leads to a lot of miscommunication. Rather than weighing other people's opinions and getting their insight, you're just assuming that everyone's agreeing with you, and that's not good because difference is like the flavor of life. For examples, you can look at American elections, look at the coverage, you look at Fox News. Fox News, their false consensus is all the Republicans think Donald Trump will win. You look at CNN and the liberal media, it was all Kamala. Again, with COVID, some people assumed everyone's like, oh yeah, we need to wear a mask. Others were like, nah, we don't really need masks. The sunk cost fallacy was the second one I did. So the sunk cost fallacy is basically when you stick with something despite it not working just because you're putting a lot of effort and money into it. This matters because also it leads to poor decision making. People get overly invested and it's hard for them to admit that it's a failure. An example of this I used was Elon Musk buying Twitter and converting it to X rather. And Elon has lost so much money based off Twitter, and even if he sold it now, he would still lose a lot of money. And he just keeps doing what he's doing rather than letting the ship sink. And that's kind of what the goal of this was. I want to make people aware that it's okay to let the ship sink, and there's no need to keep trying to save it. With that being said, I'm going to toss it to Haley and the appeal to fear.
So I looked into the appeal to fear, and basically what that is it's like when an advertisement manipulates the audience into a specific belief by creating like anxiety or fear around an opposing belief. So one way we see this a lot in advertisements is in political campaigns. And we saw this recently in Trump's acceptance speech when the center of all of his campaigns were "No one will be safe in Biden's America," which is creating anxiety for people that would have voted for Biden and stuff like that. And then another time we see it a lot is in healthcare, specifically during the COVID-19 pandemic. A lot of companies like big name hospitals or Moderna or Pfizer put out campaigns with messages like, if you don't get the vaccine, we will live like this forever. So it's basically just a way to manipulate people into believing the side that the campaign wants them to believe. And people need to realize that it's like everything is being so strewed out of context that it's like going too far almost in this way, and like that's most likely not the truth at all times.
No, that makes sense. I always think of the saying, it's better to be feared than respected. That's kind of what stuck off to me when I was listening to you talk. James, you have the negativity bias?
Yeah. So what the negativity bias refers to is our tendency to focus on and learn from negative information more than positive. An everyday example of this would be like you have a fairly fine day, nothing really bad happened, and then someone just says something to you like, hey, that shirt looks weird, and that's the only thing you focus on throughout the rest of the time, and you think, oh, I had a really bad day today just because one person said something. A more wider example of this would be, the news, particularly during the COVID-19 pandemic. It was reported that during that 87% of the news reports were negative, both from liberal and conservative leaning news media outlets. And this is because that draws in more attention. If something's going wrong, people are going to look at it more. You see us a lot on social media as well. People get themselves into doom scrolling online, which is you just go post after post of just negativity, which then your algorithm will just feed into it. It keeps you on the site more, and people are just drawn to that negative energy. So what you need to ask yourself is, do you fall into that of just focusing on the negatives and a world of positivity as well?
Let me ask you, James, do you?
Sometimes, yeah.
I mean, it's hard not to. Some things you see and you're just like, wow, that's terrible. John, we got recency bias. What's that all about?
Yeah, so I think recency bias you see, I think, in the news and in the sports world and every facet of news. I think definitely in like your local news, you saw a lot of plane crash news. In January and early February, there's 2 crashes a week apart, one by DC and one in Philadelphia. And the news covered it, and they made it to be such a big tragedy, which it was. But then everyone got scared because there was 2 plane crashes that they can't fly because planes are so dangerous, when in reality planes are still the safest way of travel. But since the news recently covered such such a rarity, that's what the news does, they cover rarities. It made everyone scared of flying and everything. So that's a recency bias. And then in sports, you can see it. I mean, especially like with baseball, when they come out with the power rankings and they put the Braves third, even though they didn't even make the playoffs last year, because recently Ronald Acuna was good and he'll be back, and recently they had this player, that player. They're not reporting on fact; they're reporting on guessing because of recent happenstance. So I think you see recency bias all around you, and I think it's easy to fall for it.
Well, with that, while you were talking, I couldn't help but think about how like all of these like overlap. Just like between you two, we have the negativity bias and your recency bias. Your negative thoughts about planes because recently they've been crashing everywhere, and it's just interesting to me to see how like news and other organizations use these different types of biases to get to us. With that being said, thanks for watching. My name is Dylan. For our crew, we'd like to thank you, and we'll see you back next time.